construct our own suffering through the treadmill of our mental dialogue. And the reason that this topic is sort of front and center for me today is the last couple days I've really been grinding through the startup phase of a new set of companies that I'm starting. And everything is behind, the projects, the deadlines, we're not up to where we should be in terms of, all of the departments are behind. And that leads to, the finances not being in alignment, and you start to see things going into the red, and it causes a lot of stress. But what I really had to do in this moment was analyze my own humanness, analyze my perpetual nature to create worry in the future, in the current future and in the distant future, and remind myself that everything that we're creating, when we're feeding ourselves these dialogues, these mental, imaginary loops that cause us to suffer, because trust me, the last couple days I have been suffering myself in this cycle of that what if thinking. What if I made the wrong decision? What if I have leveraged myself or over leveraged my time? What if this isn't going to work out? What if I shouldn't have jumped into a new industry that I have no awareness of, and realizing that this mental dialogue really is pervasive throughout, any area of life. When we tend to get into this kind of dull vortex of self-doubt and negativity, and where we feel this undercurrent of hopelessness, we need to remind ourselves that 90% of that is imagined. So what do I mean by that? Okay, if you go back to when you were a child, and when you didn't have so many energetic and perceived tethers to all sorts of outcomes in your life. So when your happiness was not determined by whether you got that promotion, or whether that business succeeded, or whether you were 120 pounds before, your wedding date, or whatever these milestones or things that, loom in the future that we attach to happiness. And they're different for everybody. Everybody's got their own set of goals or standards or things that they have constructed within their mental chasm that dictate whether one's existence is quote unquote happy or miserable, for lack of a better word. And what I started to notice about myself is that, it's an unnecessary mental treadmill that I'm putting myself through, because I've been through startups for the last 20 years, and there's always going to be this level of risk and uncertainty and immense challenge and tons of obstacles. If it was easy, everybody would do it, and it's not easy. But that, getting yourself into this lower vibrational thinking does nothing for one's experience of life. And so I really wanted to dive into that topic today, because it took me a little bit of meditation and a little bit of grounding myself into the reality that everything generally always works out, even if it takes a little longer to push through it. it's about the attitude you have towards the challenges and the lessons and the journey. It's not about that final destination when your bank account has everything you want in it. It truly is, when you look back, about those times when you made joy before, the feast was all laid out for you. And so I think the lesson that I'm trying to bring across is that, you really are your own best friend when you have absolute belief in your own abilities. And it can be small things like, passing that course in university, or, going another day to hand out resumes if you're looking for a job, or putting your best foot forward. Whatever it is, whatever your goal is, it doesn't have to be a huge goal. It can just be that momentum of really reminding yourself that life doesn't have to be so complicated. It can simply be about being joyful in the doing. And that's what I had to remind myself of, is that you can get into this zone where you just feel like it's task after task after task after task, and you've lost the energy and the passion for doing any of it. And I think that that's really when you have to recenter yourself into, oh, I'm sorry about that, that's just the howler monkeys down the road, but you might hear them a little bit. But you have to center yourself in the gratefulness of each and every moment. The fact that your brain is clear, that you can function, that you can get up, and whether it is just going for a beautiful run along the river, or whatever you are able to do in the scope of your day, making the best of those things. Because remember, everybody's always going to have something a little different than you have. You have those individuals that are completely well off, and money is no issue, and they have no purpose because they don't have the momentum or the motivation to push themselves towards that goal because it's easy. And then you have individuals, I've went through it, where you feel like getting to that destination where money is easy is going to, make all of your problems go away. And it is so true. More money, more problems. The more money you have, the more you are responsible to all of the things you manage. So it kind of becomes, be careful what you wish for. But when you realize each next plateau, or on the journey towards that next destination, it's the small, simple things that keep us grounded, that keep us fulfilled, that ensure that we have happiness in each and every day. And it's not the responsibility of anything or anyone on the external. It is absolutely the responsibility of the self. And this actually spills over so much into our interpersonal relationships as well. If you're going through things with your spouse or things with your family, I know when I was younger, I often used to feel like my family was responsible, in my teens, for ensuring that I had a happy, beautiful existence, and I was always having fun. And that's a very youthful outlook on things, probably an outlook that isn't very tethered in reality, but it's often the way that young people think is, my parents are responsible for my happiness, or, my mom or my dad isn't giving me enough or paying attention or creating fun experiences. And as you grow up, you realize that we're all sovereign beings, truly all responsible for whatever crystallizes happiness and joy and fulfillment for ourselves. Nobody else can do that or create that for you. Now, you can be along the journey, you can share things with individuals, but it's not their responsibility to make you happy. And I see this a lot in terms of, couples where, one partner will feel like it is the other's responsibility to make them happy or to give them, enough time or entertainment or whatever it is that's going to be the catalyst for joy in their life. And like, what a burden to put on somebody else. That it's nobody else's responsibility to make you happy. And that was the energy I was really walking through these last few days, is that the more you know yourself, the more you dial into your own needs, and the more you ensure those needs are met, the happier and happier you are going to be in each and every day, and the more effective you're going to be. Your energy levels go up, your tolerance, for all things, and your ability to really create beautiful things in the world is energized when you are taking care of yourself and continually creating that own self-propelling momentum to bring yourself back into a happy balance. And it is work. There are going to be things that, drive you crazy. There are going to be all of the responsibilities that pile up in adult life. But remembering as many times a day as you possibly can to reach for gratitude, to look at the things that are within your life, that are blessings in your life. In our modern age, with all of the technologies, that we have access to, they're wonderful, but sometimes they take the beauty out of creating. I was thinking about when I used to volunteer at this one old folks home, and we used to bake bread for the residents, and just how much I wanted to get back into making bread, because just the way that it smelt, and the fact that once you had waited for the loaves to rise and you're slicing that warm bread, and just the feeling of things that are made with attention and love. And I think sometimes in our modern world, that's what's missing, is the pace is so fast. Everybody's on this race to this destination that they feel is going to eventually create that happiness, that so often we lose sight of the things that really make life beautiful. And those things are often gently created, and they take time and they take care, to produce. And so just like, baking that beautiful bread, I had to remind myself over the last couple of days that things take time to come together. Not anything worth having is instantaneous, and it takes time, attention, love, hard work, perseverance, and a passion for what you are wanting to do and create. And the more that you repeat the steps, and the more that you keep putting your positive energy and momentum into whatever you're doing, doesn't matter if it's a business, a relationship, a goal, whatever that is for you, So it's New Year's Eve here, and it's god awful hot. It's so hot. I'm just melting. But I wanted to come on and make a video to usher in the new year and really set an intention in terms of the spirit, the energy, the flow, and the manifestation of the upcoming year. So we're entering into the year of the horse, and the horse represents this fierce, dynamic, energetic, forward moving momentum, which is such a beautiful energy, because the year that we're leaving behind is the year of the snake. This is where we did so much shedding of the skins, shedding of what no longer served us. And the whole purpose of letting go is to learn to catch your own spirit, your rhythm, the spirit of the horse. So what I want to talk about in today's video, and it's not going to be a particularly long video because I'm getting ready to go out for dinner and to a few dance parties here, but this idea of learning how to flow with life, learning how to trust what is the next moment and the next moment and the next moment, and just letting go and detaching and breathing. Because so much of what we have conditioned ourselves to do, especially in the modern era, is we have forced our own neurological patterning like a monkey in a cage. Every time there's a notification, every time there's a bing, every time this external world is calling our attention away from the flow, away from our own true power, and the power that resides inside of you and me and all of the biosphere, the living creatures here on planet Earth, is in that gentle flow state. Now, what is the flow state? What does that mean? To let go. If we want to look at it from a physiological body sensatory experience, it's when you breathe more slowly, when your nervous system is relaxed, when you're not in fight or flight and always looking for the next excitement or the next danger. And unfortunately, we have so conditioned ourselves in 2025 rolling into 2026 to be chaos, to act chaotically, to not even know what it feels like to relax. Our idea of relaxation is getting as much as we can done, as fast as we can, hyped up on coffee, having a little drink to slow us down because our mind is racing 10 miles a minute. It's not truly being in the flow. And what the universe wants us to understand is that true manifestation is not difficult. It's a symphony. It's peaceful. It's the way a conductor gently guides their orchestra. It feels like elation. It shouldn't feel constrictive. When you're in that flow state, when you are one with the real now moment that you're supposed to be in, that you are supposed to be experiencing, it really should feel good. You shouldn't have 200 other thoughts circling your head like little birds spinning around, chirping at you. Oh, you have to do this. Do you remember you had to do this? And there's this notification, and this person wants this thing, and that person wants that thing, and I didn't do this, and I'm not good enough here, and oh my God, how am I going to get all of this done? And how am I going to, present properly to the world? And, am I behind? Am I like, just none of that is useful. And so back to this discussion of how the body feels when it's in its true purposeful state. The way you breathe is relaxed, it's deep, it feels pleasurable, like you feel into the breath, you feel into the moment. And on a cellular level, every single fiber, every single cell, atom, energy in your body just feels grounded. It feels anchored. It knows that it is. It almost hums with life. And yet it's so peaceful. It's just this extreme, eternal, infallible knowing that is your anchor. And you won't have tension in your body. You won't feel fuzzy in your mind. You won't feel a dullness to your environment. Everything feels alive. It feels like what you are is everything else, but you're still very conscious that you're in this sovereign body that is your home for this moment. And in every breath, you feel just this beautiful warmth and gratitude and energy and excitement. But it's not an anxious excitement, it's an ancient excitement, an excitement of the beauty of creation, the beauty of the story, the unraveling, the ripples, the effects. And this brings me back to that energy, the spirit of the horse. When I'm on my ranch and I'm watching the horses run in the field, you can just feel the power and the majesty, and the calm energy is palpable. You just know that there's this spiritual elegance in that creature that you want to embody in every way. And so I am so excited that this year is ushering in the year of the horse. Now, I want to talk a little bit about your mental world, your emotional world. The horse is regal and wise and grounded as its mighty hooves glide across the plains. It's just part of what the horse embodies. And yet, as powerful and muscular and strong as that creature is, it is so gentle and poetic and loving. When you stand near a horse, you feel their breath, you feel their energy, you feel their power and grace, but it's something deeper. You are transported back to a time before all of the concrete and the technology and the confusion and deadlines and obligations rose up around the spark that is you. because that still is the essence, the core of what you are. And emotionally, if you can transport yourself back into that childlike state, that state where you were just bubbling with curiosity and the world looked magical. That's the way the world is supposed to look. It's supposed to look magical. It's supposed to feel magical. You're supposed to feel held and safe and loved and guided and supported. And we all have memories from our childhood, even if we had turbulent, chaotic childhoods. Children they're special in the sense that they feel held, they feel nurtured, and even if these are fleeting moments, a child knows how to relax into the flow of that cradle of existence. And so I want to bring you back to that idea emotionally of learning how to feel psychologically and emotionally cradled by existence. And how do we do this? And how do we infuse this into the very depths of our being? We do it through trust and faith. When we let go, we're not giving up, we're trusting. We're trusting that everything is always, in every single moment, working out beyond our highest comprehension for us. And that even the pain, even the difficulties, even the missteps, when you put it all together, when you stack it all up, there is still something incredibly beautiful being born out of all of it. And faith, tethered to this trust, is grounded in love. It's grounded in that energy that I have the faith in all things. I have the faith in myself. I have the faith in the world. I have the faith in this beautiful creation that is nature. And in that, I'm in flow. I'm flowing. My energy, my spirit is evolving. It's learning. It's becoming more brilliant and beautiful with each and every moment. And just settling into this knowing is such a powerful, powerful state. And we stop holding on so tightly. We let it go. Sorry, my dog is wanting to get out. It's so hot in here. So that's probably a good place to end this video because I know she wants to get out in the fresh jungle air. But I want to wish each and every one of you such a profoundly beautiful, magical, magnetic start to your year. Make this the year of you, where you start to feel your own energy. You gallop at that pace that was meant for you. You stop living from a focal point or a framework of fear, and you let it go. You do the things that light your spirit on fire, and you do it fearlessly, but in a gentle, valiant
actually making this video pertaining to a comment that was on one of my other videos. And so what I want to talk about is what I describe as the abyss. That place where the consciousness enters into a state of being totally lost, totally disconnected, hopeless, and essentially feeling like one's life has no value. And I can only accurately speak about this because I've traveled the path. And the ironic thing is, many individuals will look at the external, and we have to remember that whether it is our actual container, our body, that which is built around the true source of ourself, or that which is a projection, meaning the outside world, what we understand as our external reality, is temporary. It is not a permanent state. And this is really the most important key to unraveling or finding your way out of the labyrinth of what I call the abyss. It's that state where, in modern terms, we might call it being suicidal, wanting to end one's life, wanting to give up on the journey of this lifetime. So there's a few things that I want to delve into. And the comment that I made was really about the understanding of the value of the roots running deep in the darkness of the soil. So I wanted to expand on that. And what I mean by this is that a tree's roots extend deeper and deeper and deeper into the darkness and the soil of the earth, reaching in all directions to seek out water, being one of the elements that is life-giving to the tree. But if anybody has ever gone into a cave or gone into the ground, there is such a mystery and fear of that darkness, that suffocation almost, and the isolation of that darkness of the earth, that the roots must push through. And the other comment that I made was that the deepness of the root is directly correlated to the height and the beauty and the expansion of the tree in the opposite end of the spectrum. So why am I bringing all of this up? Why am I using that metaphor? Because I have walked the path myself, and I have spoken of this in other videos, but I'm going to bring it up again. It was a year and a half of my life where I was extremely ill. I could not swallow, I could not use my hands, I couldn't walk, I was down to 80 pounds. I was in the hospital going through something that was so terrible and so immense and so scary. It was the most terrifying energetically in a human body that I've ever felt. And I was alone doing this. I didn't, there was one person in the hospital that came to visit me, not one. And so at my lowest point, and it wasn't because I wasn't a good person or anything like that, it was just the circumstances. And to go through this year and a half, to be so weak, to be so frail, to actually also see my own body become so ugly, just I was very thin and frail, and my hair was falling out, and of course my eyes were. I was just dying, essentially, and drooling all over myself every day because I couldn't swallow, I couldn't eat food, and there was a point in every day where I wanted my life to end so badly. Sorry, that's my dog. I wanted my life to end so badly that I would call the local suicide hotline. It sounds funny, but I just needed to speak to somebody. I just needed to have another voice on the end of the phone. But it wasn't, and because I was so weak and just laying in bed and there was no purpose to my life and I couldn't understand, it wasn't a cry for help. Nobody was listening, in the sense of I wasn't acting out this ideology of suicide or ending my existence because I wanted attention. There was nobody that was paying attention, so it wouldn't have mattered. It was truly a conversation with my own psyche that I couldn't handle the weight of the pain, of the terror, of the confusion, and the fact that my body was not functioning and I had no control. And so why I wanted to bring this up in the video is that the way that I maneuvered through this and came to this understanding is that a lot of my time previous to this incident and after, many years after, was seeking the light outside myself. I was always seeking to be saved. I was always seeking to feel validation, to feel love, to feel that energy of God or the Creator or the purpose on the outside in my external reality. And this is why the comment hit me so hard, is that I knew in an instant the solution. The solution is to become your own light. No matter where you are, no matter how uncomfortable the mirror of humanity is, because we have to remember that humans are a very young species. We are not in balance with the planet. We are completely out of balance with the planet. And with that imbalance, you see a lot of darkness, a lot of competition, a lot of distortion. But that's how all things start. All species have an imbalance in their progression. That's how they learn. So the message is, seek not to your external reality to find grace. Pull yourself back again and again and again to that which is inside of you. If there is something beautiful and purposeful that you are, be that. And you can find, even in the darkest places, you can find those moments where everything and every way that you are interacting with the world is beautiful. Every time I rescue a dragonfly out of my pool, or a butterfly, or I put something back in place. I was also cleaning my house this morning, and there had been a windstorm and it was very dirty. And some would look at that and be frustrated in the element of cleaning up the mess. But as I was sweeping and gathering and scrubbing, I was so grateful for the work. So incredibly grateful that the destruction of the windstorm brought me purpose. It gave me the ability to use my body. It gave me something to make bright and beautiful. Because as you clean, just like as you clean your mind, and every time each and every time I'm cleaning, I envision cleaning out some of that distortion within myself, realigning the little fragments of what it means to be a soul. And I think that is one of the biggest lessons of moving through the darkness, the abyss, that energy of terror and fear and hopelessness and blindness, that blindness in the darkness, that once you come to know it, and once you have moved through it with grace and with courage, you come out the other end and you realize that the world was never here to serve you. You are meant to serve it. And what I mean by that is that you are meant to go through the darkness in isolation, alone, because you are the tree that is growing. You are the tree. You need to become your own light. You need to be your own guide through the darkness. And that can be a difficult message to hear, because oftentimes we then try to expand that outward to mean that we will never have deep connections with others, and that is absolutely not true. Saying that this is a sovereign, solitary journey of the self does not mean that once we are whole, we will not feel connection deeply. And just like the tree that reaches into the earth, so often the strong trees in the forest extend their roots out to those that cannot reach water. And so the message is that the stronger you grow from your own light, the more powerful you are in helping others grow. So that is the journey. That is the beauty. That is the message. And nothing is ever hopeless, no matter how dark it seems, if you keep the faith, and if you keep reaching, if you keep asking, if you just get up one more time. Because it was probably in my own story 600 days where I had to say to myself, one more day, one more day, one more day. And each and every day compounded into more of a fierce spirit, more courage, more grace, more wisdom, a totality of understanding that the story needs the chaos. The beauty of all that is that to exist, to experience, to live the depth, the darkness is part of that story. It is part of what is needed to create the texture and the growth. And so we surrender into the darkness in search of our own light. So as we close out 2025, I want to talk about the value of pain. And I think to a lot of seekers, the idea of pain as being associated with something of the light may not always calibrate in a way that hits our understanding deeply. So I want to talk a little bit about the value of our system of duality and how the most painful experiences that you go through, the losses, the grief, the sorrow, the darkness, not knowing where you are or who you are or your purpose, those can be, in my experience, absolutely the most powerful catalyst for deep change, but also momentum. And I want to dive a little bit more deeply into this concept because it's so incredibly freeing. Once we realize that pain is a gift in a certain sense, it's not that we want to inflict pain on others or that we want to be the source of pain for others. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that when we go through painful experiences, when we go through a breakup, a divorce, when we lose somebody, when we're losing even our own health, bankruptcies, global disasters, all of these things, pain and the experience of pain is such a deeply felt physical, emotional, spiritual experience that it can motivate you with an extreme amount of purpose that having everything smooth and easy would not be able to charge you in the same way. I think this is the easiest way for me to explain it. And so think about the times when somebody in your past has doubted you or hurt you, cut you down in some way, or left you. There's that initial shock of that painful experience that is like an undertow. It pulls you into sort of this chasm of darkness. But if you can learn to use this current of darkness to become your motivator, the transformation in these stages is profound. And the best way to teach is always to talk from experience. And in my experience, when I've went through the deepest losses, when I have been left, when things have left my life, those are the moments when I have to challenge myself to make my pain my purpose. So to transmute, to transform that deep, visceral, uncomfortable energy, because it is uncomfortable. That's the other quality of pain. It's extremely uncomfortable. And that gift of how uncomfortable it is that momentum that causes you to want to move to another state as quickly as you possibly can. And so what it does in the emotional body, in the mental body, is you start becoming very creative when you're in a state of pain, because it's something of a deficit. So you're in this state of that vacuum, that emptiness, and there is so much motivation that the individual creates or generates to try to move out of that state. And that energy that we're creating, that pain, causes transformation. And not just small transformations, oftentimes, and we've seen it over and over and over again in history, those individuals that have gone through the most painful circumstances, the greatest number of challenges, end up becoming some of the greatest leaders and world changers due to the element of using their pain for purpose. And the difference between somebody that will get lost in the undertow, lost in that energetic churning and essentially emptiness, not knowing where to go, and the person that can supersede it and transmute it and transform it, is the understanding of the catalyst that it is. And another way to say this is understanding the gift that it is bringing forth towards you. It's taking you out of your comfort zone and moving you into an arena where, or as I like to say it, it's backing you against a corner so tightly that all you can do is transform or give up. There's really two choices when the pain cuts so deep. And so a beautiful transformative skill that you can learn is to identify anytime you're in that pressure cooker, that energy of darkness, sorrow, depression, anger, frustration, loss, grief, all of those turbulent emotions. And then you have this aha moment and you say, okay, I'm swimming in the deep. I'm really sinking in that quicksand of my own mental state, and it's affecting my emotions, it's affecting my interactions, my ability to create. And you look at it from the vantage point of a wise creator, and you ask yourself, how can I harness the energy of darkness and transmute it into the energy that will propel me into that next phase of growth, into that golden age for yourself. And what will happen as you're walking through the fires of pain is you will go through that transformative aspect. The self starts to disintegrate. We have to really look at ourselves. We have to face ourselves in the mirror of pain. And we look at all of the things that are not or are no longer serving us. And especially in that isolated state that often happens when we are in a dark period, I call it the dark mirror. You don't have the benefit often of all of this beautiful, supportive, light energy around you that you would normally have access to. And as much as this light, amazing, supportive energy is wonderful for our souls as well, it doesn't illuminate what we need to fix in such a poignant and raw way. We can see in this dark mirror all of the things that we try to mask from ourselves, all of those little aspects that aren't quite perfected. And of course, we'll never achieve perfection because in the eternal cycle, there is always something new to create. There is always a new adaptation, a new expansion of consciousness. But it's in this treadmill that we start to see ourselves more clearly. And I'm going to link this also back to self-love, because when you are alone in the darkness of pain, you must learn these lessons on your own. You must learn to pick yourself up, build that character, build that resilience, and become even more of an amazing creature than when everything was just smooth sailing. And so I'm reaching out and making this video for anybody at the closing of this year that is going through a transformation period. If you're feeling isolated, if you're feeling alone, if you're feeling like things just aren't aligning for you, I want to challenge you to use that energy of pain, of frustration, of stuckness, of your back against the wall, to do something to fight for yourself, to take all of that momentum that is bubbling and seething inside of you and transform that very energy, because it's powerful. It's a power. Utilize that power to create something beautiful with your own light and your own energy. And it's often when we are walking through this darkness that we build diligence, that we build a certain level of grit and ability to really stand on our own 2 feet and to know ourselves. Because to know ourselves is to look at the entirety of ourselves. Of course, to celebrate what we see illuminating within us in that light mirror, but also to recognize some of the darker parts in that mirror of darkness. Look at them, face them, move through them, transmit them, and ultimately return back to your purpose in the love and the light. Okay, I'm going to end this video, and I will be making one more, I guess, more positively framed video today on the new meaning of the year and how you can really take this energy and begin to set in motion your purpose, your practice, your patterns, everything that you want to infuse into the coming year. Okay, from my family to yours, a very, very happy new year, and we'll see you in the next video in the new year.